Good morning, everyone. If I could just have you draw your attention to the board, we will get started. Today we will be talking about co-teaching and collaborative teaching and defining the characteristics of both of them. Let's begin with co-teaching. How can co-teaching be defined?
Well, when I think of co-teaching, I think of two teachers collaborating together and instructing together in order to benefit the students' mastery of their learning goals.
I have to agree with that. I think co-teaching is where there's two teachers in a classroom, and I think it's generally a general education teacher and a special education teacher, and they both work together to help instruct their students.
Yeah, I think generally it could just be defined as two teachers working together to enhance student outcomes.
Nice job, everyone. Our course text defines co-teaching as an instructional approach in which two or more teachers or other certified staff share instruction for a single group of students within a single classroom setting. This is pretty much what you all came up with during our discussion. There are several different types of educators that can be involved in co-teaching, including content area, cooperating, and special education teachers. It is also important to have the students, parents, and administration involved to ensure cohesion between the school and home and to help build a community.
I've also heard the term collaborative teaching used. What is the difference between this and co-teaching?
That's a great question. Collaborative teaching and co-teaching are very similar, and much of the information we will talk about can be applied to both. Collaborative teaching is essentially when two teachers work together to plan a lesson, but teach it in separate classrooms, allowing for differentiation. Does that answer your question?
It does, thank you.
Great. Next, we are going to talk about the 6 different approaches to co-teaching. I have a coworker who is with me here to talk about the 6 different approaches.
Hello everyone, my name is Michaela Walters and today I am going to briefly break down each of these 6 approaches an educator can take when looking to co-teach. The first approach would be one teach, one observe. As you can assume, this strategy is used when one of the present educators is in front of the body of the class teaching while another is observing the children while they are listening, as well as when they are working. After the lesson, the teachers can then communicate with one another about their parts. This is a simple strategy that allows the teachers to inform and educate one another about what was observed from their point of view. The second approach I will discuss is called alternative teaching. This is when one of the present educators is working with a majority of the class while the other has pulled out a small group of children and is working with them directly on the side. This method has been found to be extremely beneficial for students with IEPs. The small group of children that is pulled out may be ones that need some extra attention and/or practice with their work, and this small group would be an easy way for them to receive some of that specialized attention. Another approach that can easily be used is station teaching. This method is one that I would assume many of you have seen used before. If you haven't, however, this is an approach where the classroom has been divided into stations. The students will be broken up into groups and rotate through each station during the designated time. These stations may have the students independently working with the teacher, or working with partners. Some examples of stations may be book reading, story writing, or math games. When more than one teacher is available, the teachers can then work with students in different stations, or one may be doing that while the other is roving and keeping the students on task. Team teaching is an approach that allows both teachers to teach the students the same lesson and instructions at the same time. The teachers will be working together, side by side, in front of the class to give their students the material and/or instructions on the given topic. One teach, one assist is an approach that can be used to practice co-teaching as well. One teach, one assist is when one teacher is in front of the classroom teaching the students while the other is roving the room and looking for behavioral issues, off-task, or struggling students. The last approach that I will discuss with you today is called parallel teaching. Parallel teaching is used by splitting the class in half and giving each teacher the same lesson to teach their given group of students. Each of these approaches has been found to be both beneficial and effective in the classroom. However, one may be used over the other given the teacher's lesson and/or environment. Also, it is important to remember that collaboration, frame of reference, and shared problem solving are essential to co-teach with another. You need to communicate with your co-teacher and together critically think about the student's prior knowledge, background, and problem areas when teaching together. I hope you have found the breakdown of these approaches to be beneficial, and I am glad I was able to present them to you today. Thank you.
I hope everyone understood the 6 different approaches. Let's take a look at an example of co-teaching in the classroom.
You agree? Let's give Juan Carlos 3 snaps. We're gonna have 3. 1, 2, 3.
It's a mutual respect that we have for each other. She respects that I'm an educator. I'm not just somebody who's in there to service some children who have IEPs or 504s.
Hi, gentlemen, can we put our markers and boards somewhere else?
I think of her as my right hand, and myself being her right hand, the two of us really helping each other through lessons and making sure that we can get to all of the kids. And that's one of the key components of the co-teaching, is reaching all learners as fast as possible and not letting things go.
You need to say there are kids. It's not my classroom. Dawn always says our homeroom, our kids, well, we are doing this. And that makes the special educator feel more welcome.
What is nonfiction? What is nonfiction? And this is done like
I feel like it's a really good model for kids to see their teachers who they look to for a role model. How are you communicating? Oh, okay, well they're disagreeing with that. How are they working that out?
Sarah and I, we actually went to college together.
And we had a couple of classes together. I think we were together for 1 semester.
And she showed up here at Norwood, and her and I were both like, I know you.
I saw her in the hallway, and I was actually really nervous. I was like, did she like me in college? Is she going to give me a good recommendation? And then, and she seemed really excited to see me.
And from that moment on, we just became friends in the building, and you know, we can sit down and talk about kids, talk about life. And I think that it does help when you have that relationship with a co-teacher to start off at the basics, understanding where each other come from, understanding each other's lives and what's going on in your life.
You're not on an island. You have a partner, and you have to understand it's like your relationship with your spouse. You have got to talk about the uncomfortable things.
Yellow folks, you need, hold up, listen first, listen, always listen to yours first.
And I know that the co-teaching model also says that it is like a marriage. You go through the stages where you're dating at first. Yeah, Sarah and I, we knew each other before, but now it's a new relationship because I've never taught with her before. She had never taught with me. So now we're like in that dating phase where I'm trying to figure out, okay, well how do you want to do this? Oh, okay, well, I would rather do it like this, and going back and forth, and her saying, oh yeah, it's an awesome idea. And then we get into like the engagement where it's all exciting and we're feeling like, wow, this is working great. I love it. I think we should continue in this relationship. And then getting to that final marriage where you are going to run into problems, but it's okay because the two of you have each other. And that's what it's all about.
Now we are going to talk about when teachers use co-teaching. Reflecting on the different approaches that we have talked about, what are some situations that teachers might use co-teaching?
So I think one way that educators co-teach effectively is by collecting data from their students. So this means that one teacher will instruct while the other one collects data on student projects or progress and learning.
I've seen another way where they use it to boost the education in the classroom, so that when they are teaching lessons, they can switch off, and so one of them who isn't teaching the current lesson can go around and give more individualized instruction to their students.
Yeah, I truly think that a lot of teachers use co-teaching because it allows them to monitor behavior in the classroom. Some students need more supervision so that they don't disrupt the learning environment in the classroom.
Thanks for sharing. Those are exactly what I had in mind. I am sure all of you have either had a personal experience with co-teaching or seen it modeled before. What are some of the advantages or disadvantages that you have seen?
First off, planning schedules between the two instructors can be a really big challenge. We may have differing opinions on when the students should learn key concepts or what lectures are most important to emphasize. Also, without the backing of a strong, supportive administrative staff, I think it's really difficult to move forward in a positive and helpful way.
Yeah, I agree. Another huge disadvantage is that co-teaching requires a lot of administrative support, and that's sometimes really challenging to get. And another disadvantage is that many teachers aren't trained on how to co-teach, which means most likely it's not going to create a supportive and effective learning environment for their students.
Those are really good points that you guys made, but I find that the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. For one, co-teaching lowers the student-to-teacher ratio, so that allows for students to get more individualized attention and better help and instruction, especially for those problem students who really need it. This also enhances their learning opportunities, so lower interruptions are going to be made by students with having two teachers in the room, and there would also be improvement in academic growth, because two teachers generally means twice as much academic instruction, so they have more chances to understand the concepts that are being presented to them.
I think a huge advantage is also creating an inclusive community for the students to feel comfortable in, and we as a staff would grow by supporting and incorporating each other's ideas.
I have seen these advantages and disadvantages as well. To end the discussion, I would like to give you a few tips for success, as well as some aspects of co-teaching to keep in mind. The first tip for success in co-teaching is building a good relationship with fellow teachers and identifying each other's teaching style. This will allow you to understand the teacher you are co-teaching with, so there is a clear flow of instruction and make everyone feel more comfortable to promote an effective learning environment. Another tip is to discuss each other's strengths and weaknesses. This will allow you to choose which approach to co-teaching and also what part of instruction to teach. It is also important to talk about children's IEPs and educational goals, so each teacher is aware of a student's needs and work as a team to develop a plan of action for the students' success. Last tip is to learn from each other. No teacher alone knows everything there is to know about teaching, so it is critical for teachers to learn and take advice and tips from each other to make their instruction more effective for their students. It is also important to keep in mind teacher autonomy and disposition, heterogeneous groups, high-stakes testing, the philosophy of inclusion, grading standards, student and other teachers' input and flexibility. Keeping these things in mind, you will have the tools you need to effectively co-teach. I am also going to pass out this handout that goes along with our discussion and also provides supplementary information.